Hi students, in this video we are going to learn about functions. I'll read out the definition of functions now and then I will explain about functions. Let A and B be two non-empty sets. Then a relation f from A to B is called a function if every element in set A, this word is very important, every element in set A has a unique image in set B, and we write this as function f exists such that from set A to set B. This is the definition of function. Now I will explain about the function now. You just listen. Now function can be compared with mathematical calculator that we use in our daily life. What happens is when we give input to the mathematical calculator, it produces the output. Similarly, here also we are giving input to the mathematical function and it produces the output. The input is normally denoted as x. Similarly, the output is denoted as y. The output can also be written as f of x because some mathematical function has been already done on x. So the output y is the function of x. Hence output can be represented y, otherwise f of x. Similarly, input is represented as x. Now we will see an example of function. Let f of x is equal to x square. It means that when we give input to this function, it squares the input that we are giving. For example, when we are giving input as 1, this is the first input we give, that's why we denote it as x1. The 1 goes as an input for this function and it will square the 1 it receives, hence it will produce the output 1. This is the output 1, hence that's why it's denoted as y1. Now we are giving input as 2. Since it is a second input, we are denoting it as x2. When 2 goes inside here, 2 square is 4. Hence, we receive the output as 4. And this is the second output. That's why we denote it as y2. Similarly, when we give 3, we get the output 9. So, this can be represented in this way also. The input set is denoted as x. The set of all inputs, otherwise the collection of all inputs together called as domain. You just look at this, we are giving the name for collection of all inputs. That name is domain. Set means collection of well-defined object. Domain is called as the set of all inputs. So I am reading the definition of domain. The domain definition is set of all inputs is called as domain. Similarly, the collection of all inputs that we get from the function is called as range. Hence, the set of all outputs is called as range, meaning all the outputs are put together. That collection, well-defined collection, is known as set. That set name is range. So now I'll explain you about this diagram. When we give 1 as an input, it gives the output 1. This input 1 is related to the output 1 by the function f. Here x square, f is equal to x square. The input 2 is related to the output 4 under the function f here. I hope you understand this. This is called mapping function. The input is mapped with, otherwise related with the output. Now the inputs x1 corresponding output is y1. We are writing it in the form of x coordinate, y coordinate. This one represents input 1, this one denotes the output 1. Now when we write 2, 4, meaning 2 is given as an input for this function f of x and it produces the output 4. Similarly, 3 represents the input given to the function f of x and it produces the output. Hence 3 represents x coordinate value, 9 represents y coordinate value. Based on this, we can draw the graph of the function. For the input 1, output is 1. For the input 2, output is 4. We are joining all those points together. We are getting the graph of the function. I hope you understand this concept. Now I will give some more important point about function. For the function, a mathematical operation can be called as a function when we give one valid input when we give one valid input, it must produce only one output. It should not produce more than one output. Then only that mathematical operation can be called as a function. If you look at this example, square root function, when we give input as 25, the square root will give us the output plus or minus 5. Here plus 5 is one output, minus 5 is another output. Hence, this square root operation cannot be called as a function because it produces two different outputs. Normally calculator means when we give one input we should get only one output. Two different outputs should not be given. Hence the square root function is not square root mathematical operation cannot be called as a function. I hope you understand this. And one more very important point is, if valid input is given means definitely the function must produce one valid output. When valid input is given and the function is not able to produce output means the mathematical operation should not be considered as the function, because when the input is given definitely it must produce output. I hope you understand the basics of function. Now I will come back to the definition now. Let A and B be two non-empty sets. Non-empty set means definitely these two sets must contain some elements. Then a relation F. I told you the relation F from say A to B. Here the set X is called as A. As per this concept, set X is called as A and set Y is called as B. So then a relation F from A to B is called a function if every element in A, meaning every element in set X, that means we are giving valid input, has a unique image. Unique image means one input must produce only one output. If every element in A, every element means each and every element in the set A must produce only one output. When a particular input is given and it does not produce the output means that relation, otherwise this mathematical operation cannot be called as a function. So every element in the input set must produce only one output. That output is together called as, all the outputs together is called as set B here. Normally we denote it as X comma Y because set of all inputs is denoted as, actually set has to be represented in capital letter only. Sorry, this is capital letter, this is also capital Y, this is X1, X2, X3, this is Y1, Y2, Y3. I hope now you understand the definition of functions. I revise the concept once again. A mathematical operation, a relation or otherwise a relation can be called as a function when it satisfies two important conditions. The first important condition means one valid input must produce only one output. This is first important question, meaning it should not produce more than one output. Next one is, if valid input is given means the mathematical operation, otherwise the function must produce output. Otherwise it will not satisfy the function definition. I hope you understand the introduction of functions. In the next video we will see some more concepts about functions. Thank you students. Thanks for your cooperation.